Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Just the Tip. I'm really excited today to have Alex Zervakos with us. He's going to talk about what he's been doing with AI in his business, a startup that he's working in, and give us a bit of a different idea about how AI can be used today. So Alex, welcome to Just the Tip. It's great to have you here.
Jack, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, you're welcome. As we've been looking forward to this one for a little while. So just before we dive in, could you give us a bit of a background into yourself and your business history, and then we'll look at how you got into AI and what you're doing with it today?
A little bit of a different background. I'm two different fields. So I have 6 different companies right now, and they're in finance and compliance, which does compliance and disclosure work, and then healthcare. So I have a couple of different areas of healthcare that I have businesses in. So a little bit different.
Yeah, and
Two things
varied.
going on.
6 businesses, so you're not very busy then.
No, lots of vacation time.
So with all of that then, how did you start looking at AI? What was it that fascinated you about looking into AI and applying it to your businesses and what you're doing?
But it was having, all the companies and different things to do in each company. And a lot of times there's things that I wouldn't get to or would take me a while to get to because I just didn't have the time. And when generative AI came out just a little bit over 2 years ago, and everybody was talking about it and excited about it, I tried it and kept trying it, and I thought it was terrible. I didn't understand why there was so much hype and people were talking about it. So I started looking online for courses or education to try to learn it better because I felt it was just me not being able to use it properly, because I really wanted to use it, to learn it so I could use it in my businesses. So that's what kicked off my interest in AI.
Yeah, I have to say we have a similar background with that. So my background is all in content marketing, and I still have an agency today of writers and content writers. And when AI first came out, I looked at it and thought, this is terrible. I'm not concerned at all. Day one, oh, there's this generative writing thing coming out. And I was like, oh, that's not going to be good for my business. And then when I looked at it, I was like, this is terrible. But as you just said, when you start to learn a few structures, a few processes around it, then it starts to be a different beast. And I'm guessing that was through getting to know Jeff and the community that he's built.
Yes, Jeff was in my network. We didn't know each other personally. I'd followed him for probably years, but just we never communicated. And by chance, I connected with him when he first started. I think the kind of beta version of AI Persona, and we connected. Loved what I heard about it. Sounded exactly like what I wanted, and the results would be what I was looking for and what I was hoping to get. And by far, that Jeff delivered all of that and more. And it got me into like a really deep dive into AI, and over the past 2 years has taken me down several different paths, which has been really exciting. And I don't think it would have been possible without learning the structured way of prompting. And then later on in the course, other things came out about structured data and using knowledge bases and the GPTs and the projects in Claude. So all of those things definitely have helped me. And I don't think I'd be where I am today in AI, and what I know without getting that huge jump start 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I really like about it as well, which I know you're quite active, is the community aspect of it, because you get to see all of these different people with their different use cases and what they're doing with it.
Yeah, everybody's got different ideas and different ways they use it. And I think one of the really nice things about the group, the community that we're in, is it's so respectful. Everybody's willing to help. Nobody's posting, bad things or ripping apart people's ideas. So it's a great environment to learn, and there's continuous learning, which is great because every week something new comes out and everybody has to learn all over again.
Yeah, it's almost virtually impossible to keep up with it on your own at this stage with the rate of development that's coming out of things. Yeah. And I saw a post you did earlier about at the start of this year, we had terrible quality images that kind of, are AI every single time. And now we're at a point of photorealism. So I think the speed of development in the industry is insane. And yeah, definitely that's the case. So I teased on it a little bit at the beginning. We were talking about your use cases and it being slightly different what you're doing. And I know you're working on a startup at the moment. Could you tell us a bit about that and how that's unfolding?
Yes. So right now we're in the beta testing stage of a company called Theryo. which is an AI mental health platform for individuals and also for the therapists to use AI to analyze session transcripts or journaling entries from a patient or a user, and provide kind of education, more guidance, structure to go into therapy sessions. And very similar on the therapist side, again, listens to the sessions, provides notes in a structured format, in the format the provider or the doctor or therapist is looking for, and then just continues to keep memory and keep track of all the little details that happen in day-to-day life from the individual, and combine that information again to give a deeper look into the patient's life outside of the 1 hour therapy session that they see.
Right. So it's almost becoming like a hive mind for therapists and patients to have a bigger knowledge base of all the things that have been discussed and may have been missed, right? Because humans, when you're a therapist, I guess you're seeing a load of clients in a week. So kind of keeping that separation can be a challenge.
Yeah. And what another way that's helpful is, a lot of times if someone goes into therapy, the first 20, maybe a little bit longer minutes of that session is kind of a recap of what happened the week before or the month before. So you kind of go through that. You don't give the responses in a lot of detail. If the patient is journaling every day, even if it's just a short journal entry, just about what's working in their day, what's not working, how they feel, good or bad, any events that happened, all those little entries combined, AI will analyze it and provide information and then share it with the therapist. So if people use it, it's very powerful.
Yeah, I was wondering if it's a way of making therapy more accessible to people as well. So say, for example, if you haven't necessarily done any kind of therapy before, we all need help with our mental health. It's something that everybody struggles with at one time or another, or even just maintaining where you're at. Is it something you guys are looking at to make it more accessible for people? So maybe they could talk to an AI before they speak to a therapist.
A few different responses to that. Part of it, when you become a user and you do your onboarding, there's a series of 10 questions that it asks you to build kind of a patient or a user profile of kind of your background, things that maybe you want to talk about or there's issues with. And then once it builds that profile, it uses that as a base and then continues to grow based on the journal entries that you have. So that's a useful thing there. Yeah, and the really exciting thing is we want to release this both for individuals and therapists, and then we also have a plan to offer it to marginalized communities and schools where and a lot of times in those communities they don't have the resources. So the families don't have the resources, and maybe the only resource they do have is a nurse or a therapist or a counselor at a school that may have 500 or 1,000 students, and those students are going to that one person. So I think that for children in communities that also don't have the resources or accessibility to therapy, a tool like this can be very helpful. And then just around the world, unfortunately, mental health problems are growing. Suicide is growing. Suicide ideology, people thinking about suicide, that's growing. And there's a shrinking group or number of therapists there to help because of different reasons. It's difficult. It's a hard profession to be in, and also it's difficult to get paid because in the United States, insurance doesn't cover a lot of it. So I think in other countries, again, where they might not have the resources or there might be a stigma connected to therapy, a tool like this is definitely helpful, or we're hoping it's going to be very helpful.
Totally, yeah. And I can see that even in raising awareness to the fact that mental health is important and something that should be recognized, because certainly where I live in Vietnam, it's quite a recent thing that people even see mental health as something you should be thinking about. Depression and all of these things are not really dug into in society here, but clearly people still suffer from these things. And as it's emerging and becoming something new, there's 100 million population, but the number of therapists that are available is really, really low. So I can see with AI it being, an application out here. And I'm guessing it's something that can be multilingual once the frameworks, the basis and everything has been built. It can do it in any language, right?
Any language. I think at some point, almost any language will be available. Now I think it's a lot of the larger or the main languages. AI is really good with that, and other languages maybe not. So English, French, German, Italian, some of those languages, it does really well. But I think that's going to change very quickly. I don't think it's going to take long for the language models to catch up.
Yeah, I have to say most of the time in AI where I think, oh, I need to do this, but it's not quite good enough yet, and then I delay it, I find by the time I go back to it, it's suddenly good at it. And certainly with
Exactly.
Vietnamese, not to go too much down that track, if you prompt in Vietnamese, its answers are very, very good.
Oh,
And it can communicate and translate and do all kinds of stuff if you communicate with it in its base language, which is quite interesting.
yeah, that's
So
great.
yeah, so it's crazy. So in terms of AI and everything, how do you see the future panning out in terms of AI and technology and business and the way we kind of live as humanity overall?
I think for business and users, like right now, what's becoming very talked about a lot are agents, AI agents. They can automate things and do things on their own. There's some new things that are coming out that are, I mean, they're so surprising what they can think on their own a little bit. Just a week ago, I think I'd read from our group that there was an AI agent that went online and had a task to do. And in order to get a legal entity to be able to do that, it created its own company online on the blockchain. So I think AI and automated agents and things that we probably can't even think about right now as they come out is going to help humanity, like you said, give us a lot more time. And in business, I think one of the neat things is that AI is going to give people a lot more time. It's going to give them a lot more knowledge behind them where they don't have to go out and look for that knowledge. And for small businesses, usually where you have one person and maybe a couple of employees, and that one person is trying to do everything and maybe not good at marketing or something else, doing online customer service response, AI will be able to do that for them. So for small business, I think it's going to be huge. For
Yeah.
individuals, I think there's a lot of good. Like one of the things as part of the consulting that I did earlier on was building AI personas for families that had neurodivergent children and had issues. So that was a huge, having almost like a chatbot that knew about the family to be able to ask questions. It was a huge help. So I think even in individual life, your personal life, AI is going to be really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I use it for. I've got two young children. I've got a 7-year-old daughter. My son, obviously, too small for those kind of questions, but still, I'm using AI for that. If there's something comes up, I'm not sure how to handle it, then I will ask AI for some opinions on that. And I think there's a huge value in everybody's
Yeah,
life for doing that, even on a base level. So if you build something that's got this knowledge base behind it and can answer those questions, it's
yeah.
limitless in what it can do in terms of relationships, the way people feel, their businesses, and giving them time back. And I guess it leads me to the last question: is what would you say to people that are a bit worried about AI and are thinking, well, what am I going to do when AI comes in and takes all of these things over?
I hear that a lot, and I think I posted something the other day about it. I think it's really important to learn how to use AI effectively, responsibly, and so you need to go online, join a community, teach yourself how to use it properly. So the more you can teach yourself how to correctly use it, I think that's going to help in your job. You'll be more sought after. You'll have more opportunities. You'll be able to help with this new, because it's still at the very beginning. There's so much more to come. So if you know about that, it's definitely going to give you a leg up. And then what I had read and posted about was that what's going to be really important is communication. So machines can do a lot of things, but they can't communicate. They can't be team leaders. They can't put a team together and manage it. So learning AI, and if not already a skill that you're proficient with, learning how to communicate so that you can teach people about AI or communicate it or help implement it within your department or your job or your company.
Right. Yeah. So
I think those two
basically,
combined.
it's going to augment people's roles, and that the
Yeah,
person will still need to be there to kind of manage their team of people, but also the AI team of people that they have underneath each of them is
yeah.
the way that you see it going. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I can resonate with that.
I definitely think, that if people that know how to use AI, and not, you don't have to be a developer or a programmer to do it, but just know how to prompt, know how to use data, and know how to use knowledge bases, which, we talk about a lot in our community. Just having that knowledge is going to be huge. And if you have that, AI will work better for you. It will let you do more with less effort, which is, if you're talking about jobs, that's what every company wants. They want you to do more and pay less for it. So if you know how to use AI, I think that's going to, and just how to prompt and use the knowledge bases, I think that will help a lot. I think it's the people that are afraid of it and don't want to learn it are the ones that might have some difficulty.
Yeah, it's certainly a time to embrace that. And I think, again, that the things will change of what people do, right? Like when we had farming machinery come in and everyone was working in the fields, people would have been like, what are we going to do? What's everyone going to find for work? Or even something like when NASA, before they had computers and they had to manually calculate things. It's not like all these smart people were suddenly useless. It just meant that they could go and do 10 times more than what they were doing before.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way to frame it, certainly for what's to come.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. So Alex, if people would like to keep up with you and keep in touch with what you're doing and the progress of your startup, where's the best place for them to do that?
I'll share my LinkedIn profile with you, the link for that, or Facebook, since we're doing this on Facebook. Those two links, either one, that would be great.
Awesome. I will make sure they go into the video description as well, so people can get to you that way. Alex, really appreciate you coming on Just the Tip today. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about your startup and when it gets launched.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Cheers, Alex.
Thank you, Jack.